This is Deborah with Kensington Cross Stitch. It is Saturday, February 18, and this is Flosstube number 4. So welcome back to all of my returning subscribers, and hello to all of the new subscribers. It has been a pleasure to get to know some of you over the last several weeks as I got started on this Flosstube journey. And I had to say, I checked just before I started filming my video because I'm getting very close to a milestone. I am currently sitting at 999 subscribers. It went up right before I started filming again. So I think that that is just flabbergasting. I think that that is flabbergasting is how I feel about it. It's interesting. I had mentioned in my very first video that I used to be a professor. I was a law professor and I taught legal research for a number of years. And I was thinking about it, and over the course of about 13 years of teaching, I taught a variety of different topics: basic American U.S. legal research, foreign and international legal research, as well as law practice technology toward the end. But all of those classes tended to be very small sections of students because it's the kind of class, it was a practical class. You wanted to be able to have direct interactions with your students and be able to give them a lot of good one-on-one feedback. So class sizes were kept fairly small. But I was thinking about it, and let's just say I taught 100 students a year over the course of the various classes that I taught, and I taught for 13 years. That's like 1,300 students-ish over the course of that teaching career that I was able to work with and get to know in a variety of ways. And somehow in just a couple of weeks, I am reaching nearly that many people talking about cross-stitch, which, you know, they're very different things. It's an apples to oranges comparison, but it is a very interesting way to think about technology and how we can interact with people and the ways that it can bring us together in such a variety of ways. So, little random aside that I was thinking about is I had kind of been watching that number, which is just, like I said, flabbergasting. So thank you to everybody that has subscribed and has returned. I cannot say how much I appreciate your willingness to spend a little bit of time with me every couple of weeks and to listen to the ramblings that I have about cross stitch. So thank you. I really appreciate it. It is just truly special. So thank you for that. And of course, I will say, let's assume that there will be a giveaway to mark this milestone in the next video. So hopefully we will continue to see that trajectory continue. So odd. But anyway, good morning, or actually it's good afternoon, everybody. I'm filming a little bit later in the day than I normally do. I had a work event that I had to attend this morning, and it was funny because there actually was a cross-stitch event scheduled during the day that got canceled, and I was like, I'm gonna come back and figure that out because there was a cross-stitching event happening that I need to know about. But that was just kind of a fun little aside that I got to experience this morning. So with that, I think we will jump right into this week's Flosstube episode, talk all about our cross-stitching hobby, and go from there. So with that, I'm gonna move my notes out of the way and we will get started. So I did want to talk about a couple of things, starting out with some finishes. So I had a surprise finish over the last couple of weeks. It's been about 2.5 weeks since we were together last. And this is one that you might remember from the Whip Parade that was my second video. And this is Bent Creek's Snow. And this piece, when you saw it last, I had completed the snowman, this top pink swirl, and just a couple of the letters on that very front row. And if you'll remember, actually, let me show you the pattern. The color scheme on the original is just a little bit different, more of a red, white, and blue scheme, and I went with just a few, brightened up the colors just a little bit. I wanted to kind of amp up those tones a little bit. This is a pattern I've had for a number of years, and this was just a fun opportunity to finally pull it off the to-do pile and actually get started on it. So I have to say my favorite part, as I mentioned in the first video, is just this snowman who is just taking this joyful leap through space. It is just such a fun little thing to add into a stitching piece. So this is something that I am stitching on 32 count Picture This Plus Arial, and I did pick my own colors. You can see that it's very similar to the original color scheme. I did reduce the number of colors just a little. I think it called for 2 different whites, for example, 2 different pinks, or 2 different kind of red and blues, but I just kind of reduced it just a little bit to be kind of a little more simple in terms of the color scheme, to really just kind of emphasize those two bright colors, the blue and the pink. And I am just so pleased with this piece. It was a fun stitch. I literally completed everything else that was on here that hadn't been started in one day. I just had kind of a marathon stitching day and just continued on, and it was really fun. So unexpected. I had actually thought I might manage to get this fully finished before I filmed today as well, but life happens and it didn't go anywhere. But a piece that I really enjoyed and wanted to show off to you. And maybe in our next video, I will actually show you the finish on that. I have everything ready to go. I just hadn't kind of taken the time to sit down and work through that piece. So I think it'll be something that'll be really fun to show off in the very near future. I also had planned when I was working on that one to do some other finishing. I actually have 4 pieces that I would like to finish all together. And what I usually do is I tend to have kind of a binge finishing day and work on a number of different projects at the same time. So I had lined up a couple of other pieces that I have had in my rota for finishing, and I had everything ready to go. I actually did some work to prepare for the finishing as well. But what I find myself doing is just flip-flopping back and forth on how I want to finish this piece. So why don't I start by showing you the piece? It's one that you haven't seen before, and we'll go from there. So this is a piece that this is a M Designs pattern, and this is something that I actually completed. I started this 10 or 12 years ago. This was my lunchtime projects in my office for quite some time, and it's called Inspire. Let's see if I do this right. Inspire, there you go. You can read that. So it actually says Inspire up and down both sides of the pattern. And this is something that I actually found in kind of a clearance bin at a cross-stitch store that unfortunately is no longer around. A little bit different again. I'm going to blame the fact that I was doing some work this morning. There we go. A very similar piece, but it called for a rainbow variegated color. And I mean, I look at it and I just think, well, it looks like a Christmas tree to me. So I went with the kind of variegated green colors. This is one of the DMC variegations. And I had started it a number of years ago, and I got one whole Inspire done and started down the back side and set it aside, didn't finish it, and I finally pulled it out last summer and I said, I just really need to finish this project and have it done. So did work on that, finished it, and then kind of set it aside, and it's been sitting here waiting to be finished since then. I think part of the reason that I have been not really moving on it is it's a piece that I like, but it's not a piece that I love. Like I said, it was kind of in the clearance bin. You know how easy it is to buy things when they're in the clearance bin. And I had started working on it when I originally started it. I was making it for somebody else. It wasn't going to be a piece for me. And so the fact that it wasn't maybe necessarily my style didn't really matter because I was working on it for somebody else. But, you know, over time, we've lost track of each other, all of those kinds of things that happen as time passes. So it's one of those pieces that I've had, and I kept thinking, but what am I going to do with this? So originally my idea was that I was going to make it a wall hanging, do kind of a quilted wall hanging with it. And I have several fabrics that I had picked out that I thought would really amp up kind of the gold and the green, kind of the Christmassy look of it. So I have this pink with gold. I've got this little gold swatch there. And then for the backing, just this plain white fabric with some gold kind of paint drops almost looking. And so my intention was I would make this as a wall hanging. I would have the gold squares in each corner where the pieces match together with the kind of pink hexagons, not hexagons, not triangles. What's the one with 4 sides? You know what? It's the afternoon. Anyway, the pink would be kind of running around the 4 sides, gold squares in the middle, and then the white on the background. And I kept thinking that was what I have intended to do. They've been set aside for months, ready to go. And then I just kept thinking, that's a lot of work. It's actually not a lot of work. It's really not that much sewing. It's really not that much work. I could do that in even to cut out the pieces, it would probably take me an hour from start to finish to do all of that. And then I would just need to put the binding on and I would be done. It's really not that much amount of time, but for some reason I just kept going. So I finally thought, well, maybe I can frame it. Maybe I can do something else with it. So I bought a frame very recently and wound up spray painting it. The piece just fits in here. And so I had spray painted it. Some of it took the spray paint a little bit better than others, but you know what? Close enough for government work, right? So I was all set to do this last weekend. I spray painted it. It was dry. I was ready to have my finishing day. And then I was like, well, maybe I want to make it as a wall hanging. So basically I went back to my original idea. So I've spent the last week basically just, like I said, flip-flopping back and forth between these two ideas. And I think part of it, like I said, is it's a piece I like. It's not a piece I love. And so I feel like maybe I'm not really passionate about the finishing, I think is what it is. If I made it into a wall hanging, I feel like it would really amp up the like modern Christmas look to it. I'm not quite sure where I would hang it in the house because I probably would only bring it out during the Christmas season. It would be a much larger piece because of the addition with the fabric. I could put it just in this one, and I actually have been thinking I might turn this wall behind me into a little bit of a place to display some of my pieces in addition to the ones that are already there. So it would go very well in this space and it would kind of be with other pieces, and so it wouldn't be just the thing that you were looking at all the time if I did it in the frame. I genuinely cannot make up my mind, so I figured I would show it to you, I would talk about it, and then I would say, what do you guys think? Do you think it would be better in a framed piece? Something to finish, but not maybe draw really big attention to it, or go big or go home and do a wall hanging that would come out maybe for a couple of weeks or a couple of months during the year. I don't know. Let me know what you think. We'll see what happens. So that's what I have been thinking about this week. Let me double check here. Was there anything else I wanted to show you on that? Allow me to bring my notes back up. Oh, I should show you my glass. This is my nesting doll glass set. Yes, there are 2 other glasses that also have dolls in them that fit inside this glass. I just thought you would appreciate seeing that. So yeah, that was my finish. That was my attempt to fully finish some things that went nowhere. And that's where we are on those. I also have a couple of new starts to show you, which is something that I hadn't really planned on this last couple of weeks, but happened. So I've mentioned in past videos that I really enjoy Hands-On Design, Kathy Haberman's company, and the projects that she puts out. And she very recently announced that she was doing a club for the very first time this year. And it was something you signed up at the beginning. It's going to be 4 projects that you receive over the course of about 10 months, all on a particular theme, which is the Gather Around theme. And I'm a sucker for that kind of thing, so I clicked yes pretty much the moment that I was able to do that. And we received our first shipments not a little over a week and a half ago-ish. And so we received those, and it came in this very cute little box that is the decoration for the club. And this is one of those clubs where it will come with everything that you need over the course of the year and for each project that comes. So including all of the stitching pieces, but all of the pieces to fully finish it as well, which as I've mentioned in the past, is something I'm getting very fond of these days. So our first one is kind of a spring theme. And it's the Gather Round or Gather Wildflowers series. So you'll see each of the pieces that are going to be coming over the course of the 4 different deliveries are all going to be a series of 3 designs on kind of that seasonal theme. And so this time we've got kind of a quilt block. We've got a Gather Wildflowers kind of a statement that goes in the center. And then we have the little house with the various flowers. Really cute project. It's done in all DMC, which came in the kit, of course, with our little fun little tag. She just has such an eye for color. The brightness of it is just really beautiful. And what we are told is that some of these colors will continue to carry through over the course of the year, and we will be getting some other additional colors as the other projects come in. And it includes everything that you need. There is kind of a little welcome thing, and then this one includes the pieces that you'll use, and it uses the magnet and washer, or magnet. These are actually metal, so you can just stick a magnet on the back, and you'll be able to just reuse these with each seasonal set that comes out. Comes with all of the fabric that you will need for that delivery. You'll get more in the next box. So really fun, just full service kit, and this is something that she is doing for the first time, so I have really enjoyed opening it. But one of the things that's special is she is going to be doing a couple of Zooms throughout the year with the people who signed up for the project, and I happened to be free this last weekend gone, when the very first one was. She kind of said, it looks like most people have received their box, so let's get together and have some fun. And so we all gathered for a couple of hours, and she talked about the boxes, answered all kinds of questions, people just hung out, and she also invited a bunch of her friends from the cross-stitch community to be kind of guest visitors. So there were designers, there were people from her local LNS that came and spoke, and so it was a really fun just opportunity to gather and talk with fellow stitchers for a couple of hours. And since we were working on it, of course, I decided to start the project while we were working on it. And so this is how far I got in that first one with the quilt block. Now, you may have noticed I've messed up already. I used the yellow in the center of the quilt block, which was, I think, it was actually supposed to be white in that case. It was a little more brown in terms of what's in the center of that pattern. And it was funny because when I started stitching it, I pulled out the yellow and I was like, oh wow, this is a lot brighter than I thought. I remembered it being just a little bit darker in the center, but happily stitched along. I was like, yeah, it's probably just the photography. That's fine. And then I finished it and then was like, oh, no, I had read the symbol wrong. There are two symbols that are, one is upside down and one is right side up, but otherwise look exactly the same. And so I had just misread the symbol. But I have to be honest, I actually really like the yellow a little bit more anyway, because I think it does give it that kind of bold centerpiece. So I'm going to keep it and keep going. I had actually already been thinking about changing the house. Sorry, I'm learning the afternoon lighting here. Changing the house to maybe be pink or yellow to brighten that piece up as well. So maybe it was just my subconscious mind being like, let's do this anyway. But a really fun piece. It was just so fun to actually sit and listen to people talk about stitching. And we'll be continuing on with that. I don't know if I'm going to try and keep up with each of those and have them done before the next project is. I think it might be something that if I'm looking for a piece to pick up and I'm kind of in between other projects, I might do, but I don't know if I'll kind of be able to keep up with all of them over the course of the year to get them done as is, but we'll see how it goes. So that was one of my starts this over the last couple of weeks. Let me just close this up here. I also had another hands-on design start. Now, you may remember from last episode that I had participated in Katie the Novel Stitcher's Stitch Along, which is the Best Bunny Sal, and I had gotten so enthusiastic about it that I had finished the piece that I worked on within just a couple of days. So it was like, okay, Sal, it started, and then I was immediately done. So oh well. But one of the things that I talked about in my last video was I pulled out a couple of other bunny related pieces and said, what do you think? I think I'm going to work on, you know, a couple of more. So I had a number of people chime in with their votes on that. Thank you to everybody. It was fun to see all of those opinions come in. I think every one of them got some kind of attention, which is really fun. But the one that got the most attention was Hop On In, which is also a hands-on design pattern. And this is just a very small chart that came out 2021. And so I had been wanting to try some of those chalkboard charcoal fabrics, but I was feeling a little bit nervous. So I found this one. I decided to stitch on an Aida for this one to see how it goes, because I wasn't sure how the darker fabric was going to work. You'll notice that it is a little more purple than gray or black, for example. And I wasn't quite sure how the blue would show up, but I think it looks great. And it was just a really fun stitch to get started on, and it is not going to take much time at all. This was kind of 2 fairly brief stitching sessions. So my guess is this is going to be the one that I work on next and get finished fairly shortly. So this is an 18 count Winter's Night by Southern Stitchers fabric, and I haven't cut it down yet, but I will do that. It's something I'll be able to use for a number of other projects. And I am using the called for Sulky threads, which is what Kathy had used for that. And I have them in my little bag here that I've put it together, because these are of course coming in the spools rather than on bobbins or in skeins of floss. This is the second time that I have used Sulky threads. I worked on one other project about a year ago. I wanted to give them a try because everybody was talking about them, and I wanted to see how does it work. So I did a project with them, and I kind of was like, I feel bad saying this because everybody raves about the Sulky threads, but I thought I was kind of frustrated by it because one of the things, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see this at all. One of the things that's really great about, one of the things that people really like about Sulky is it's a slightly heavier weight of thread than the DMC. So you can stitch with 1 thread where you normally would use 2 DMC threads. And so you basically just kind of pop the top on, or the bottom on that. You can pull out your thread, wind it back up, and keep going. And what I found, or what is also true about Sulky, is even though it is a single thread that you're stitching with, it is still made up of 2 very tightly twisted threads to make up that single strand, if I'm making sense. So there's still a very tight twist in what is otherwise a two-stranded piece of thread. And you don't pull it apart, but that's how it is composed. And what I have found is I can actually see that twist in my stitching. And so to me, it actually makes my stitching look messy. It looks like I haven't been able to get my thread straight. I know that's one of the things that people can find frustrating or difficult about using 2 strands of floss, is it feels like they could get twisted or don't lay together properly. And there are ways that you can combat that and all kinds of things. But to me, when I look at the Sulky, I see the twist in the floss, and there's no way to correct for it. I don't know if I'm going to stop using them because they are beautiful to stitch with. They go through the fabric very nicely. They're really fun colors. There are projects that call for them. I bought, this is actually a floss pack that was put together for this and the More Chocolate Bunnies pattern, which is also by Kathy Haberman. And so it's really nice and convenient to be able to do that, but I'm still feeling a little bit indifferent about them because of the way that the floss looks. The first time I used it, I was stitching it on a 32 count linen. This time I'm stitching it on an 18 count Aida. At first I had thought maybe it's just if you have a smaller square that you're stitching over, maybe you wouldn't see the twist very much, but it's a fairly tight twist. So I don't think that you would have to go fairly small in order to not be able to see that. So I don't know. I'm still feeling a little bit indifferent. I don't know if others have had that experience or it doesn't bother other people. I mean, obviously, you really only see it when you're working very closely with it. You very rarely will actually be so close to your stitches that you see that. So anybody else who looks at it probably would have absolutely no idea, but it's something that I do notice. So I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on Sulky and your experience with it. And if maybe I'm just doing it wrong, maybe there's something that I could do to kind of combat or react to that. I'm not sure. So I'm thinking about that. I've also decided, having done this a little bit, is I don't actually like using spools. I really like having the pre-cut lengths that you put on floss drops. I like that you don't have to pop the top and you don't have to unwind it. And I have discovered I'm very bad at estimating the length of floss that I would like to use. And so they're always inconsistent lengths, and you have to cut it and you have to put it back together. And I will also say these are extremely attractive to the feline members of my family. As I was preparing for this video, they were, of course, all around checking out what was going on, and I accidentally spilled this and the spools went everywhere, and it was a very popular moment of the day. So I also will say they're a little bit attractive to certain members of the family in ways that they shouldn't be. So they come with different storage kind of things that you have to think about a different way to store them. So I'm thinking I might actually put them on floss drops. I do that with my anchor threads for exactly many of the same reasons. So I think I'm going to do it. Sorry, everybody who finds that a crazy idea. Anyway, so that is my first. That was a start that I had very recently. And as I was kind of working on that and thinking about those sulky threads, I have been also kind of contemplating in the back of my mind some pieces of fabric that I bought quite a long time ago when I was in Germany, and I found these in a craft store, and they're basically pre-finished. This is a hem-stitched, pre-finished piece of fabric, and these are, I think, probably 28 count, and I found several of them in a variety of different colors. You can see they were very popular because they were like reduced in price repeatedly. So I have one white and two blue and one green, and I kind of just bought whatever they had because they were not very expensive at all. And I've been carrying these around for years thinking, I wonder what I should do with those. I should probably think of something to do with those. And sort of simultaneously, I had been thinking about some other projects that I was working on, and it reminded me of this other hands-on design series. There is this banner series, and I had recently purchased the snow related one, and I suddenly went, you know, it's a triangle. I think these are going to be perfect for this. I don't know if the angles will be exactly right, but I did do the calculations and it fits lengthwise and widthwise. So I think that that's what I'm going to do. I'll do the two blue and a white, and hang and do that, and then I don't have to do any finishing. It literally is already done. I can just thread some ribbon through it and have this ready to go. So that, I think, is going to be a future start. I'm not putting a date on it. It'll be a future start. I will want to kind of amp up the colors a little bit, because obviously if I'm stitching on a dark navy blue, the called for colors may not necessarily come out. But then I realized the sulky threads that we have, that I have for this set, are actually somewhat brighter versions of some of these. So I think I'm going to be able to reuse some of those, maybe pull together a couple of other ones, but wind up with kind of a very similar idea and be able to use those sulky threads again in another project. So that's always fun when, what is it? I love it when a plan comes together. That, I think, is what happened. All of these disparate pieces suddenly magically all work together, which is super fun. So anyway, I'm just going to get really good use out of these skeins or spools of sulky thread. That's what I'm thinking. But that one, I think, is going to be a great way to try that out. So hopefully you'll be seeing that project in a future video in the near future as well. So those are my two recent starts. We had the Gather Round and we had the Hop On In, which I'll be working on. Certainly the Hop On In the next couple of weeks, and the Gather Round, like I said, probably on and off as I have time in between my other stitching. So those were the new starts. I did want to show you some of my whips, because I do have a couple of those that I am continuing to work on. So one of these you saw during my whip parade. Unfortunately, I do not have a cover image for it, so I'll just use the imagination to describe to you what this is. This is called Hobbit Meal, I believe it is, and this is the one, it's a quote from the Fellowship of the Ring, and it's talking about the hobbits and how they love meals, and it's, what about breakfast? What about second breakfast? What about elevensies? So this is a piece that I work on occasionally from time to time, and since you last saw it, I think I had gotten BREA done before. So I have finished the first word and started in on second breakfast. And I'm using these two really rich and vibrant Victorian motto flosses for that. So I did work on that one a little bit over the course of the last couple of weeks. And this is something that I'm stitching on a 32 count mystery linen. I think it was something that I bought at Joann in a bag, in a set, in a pre-packaged thing a number of years ago. And it was just a very plain linen. You guys, let's remember to not film in the afternoon next time. It was a very plain linen. And then what I did is I added some of the Instant Antique spray to it, which gives it a mottled look that you can see. And I had actually planned on using these for an entirely different project many of years ago, which didn't come to fruition, but it is still really fun to have those little pieces for smalls. So I think it looks really fun, and I'm enjoying working on that one. It's another one that you can just pick up and put down very easily in between other projects that are being worked on. The next one I want to show you is just, I'll do a quick update on my Rainbow Temperature Supernova, which is by Climbing Goat Designs, and I have added in just the last couple of weeks of February. So this up here is actually a very dark purple. This is when we had the very brief but very cold spate of weather in New England, and I think elsewhere in the country, 2 weekends ago? So on my color scheme that I selected, I only have one color that demonstrates below 0 temperatures because it doesn't happen that often here. But this was 2 days back to back. We had a -4 and a -9 minimum temperature day. You'll also notice that I have one purple right there recently, and purples are my coldest temperatures. So it has been a surprisingly moderate winter so far. I do keep telling everybody that my theory is we're going to have like one massive snowstorm around April 1st. I have nothing to base this on other than just that is what I have decided. So that's what's going to happen. But this is a project that I have been working on and will continue to be working on throughout the year. And I've mentioned in the past, I kind of picked my own color scheme, left out some of those oranges and reds that you normally find, but just really rich jewel tones that cover the course of the year. And I have been enjoying working on that very much. And this is a 32 count gray magic linen by Stitch Me. I received this in Fabric of the Month Club, and it's just this beautiful mottled gray piece. So I have, I usually work on this on Sundays, just pull it out for an hour or so, catch up on the week, and continue on. And then just to show anybody who hasn't been with me before, this is essentially what it will look like by the end of the year. And it's intended to look like the explosion that you would get of a supernova and the explosion of a star in space. I should also say that Claire, who is the designer behind Climbing Goat Designs, has just started her own Flosstube. She has, last I checked, 1 episode out, and she talks about a lot of her different designs. She has a wide variety of temperature cells, and they might be just minimum, or excuse me, just the maximum temperature of the day. Some of them are minimum and maximum. The version that I have actually also has one that is just the maximum temperature of the day. And she also is talking about her Hubble telescope, kind of wonders of space stitch along that she has over the course of this year, which is just, it's beautiful. If you enjoy science and space and physics and color, absolutely check her out. I really enjoyed her first episode. I will link that below, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what's happening next. I once again had the like, should I start the Hubble telescope one? Should I? But I've decided I have enough ongoing projects this year, but it'll still be around later. I can do it later. All right, the last whip that I have to show you is for returning visitors. You know that I am working on Twin Peak Primitives Christmas Market, or which is a German Christmas market project, and I've divided it up so that by the end of the year, I will have this entire project done. And I have rearranged things just a little bit, so rather than being in this kind of tight rectangle design that you see, I'm doing kind of a long wall runner layout. So at this point I have finished, let's see here, February stitching was, please focus, there we go, the hot dog stand. So I really enjoyed that. The first one is kind of Christmas souvenirs. The second one is what I renamed the pretzel stand. It was originally just bread, and I was like, but it's got a pretzel. It needs to be renamed the pretzel stand. And now we have the hot dog stand. So it's really fun, kind of two different teal colors working together. And then you've got this guy who's like, I am here for the hot dogs. So I finished that one, which was my February stitching. The one other thing that I did change since you saw this last is, you'll remember that I explained that I had changed it from the German word for bread to the German word for pretzel, which is bretzel. But then, of course, I woke up in the middle of the night and I'm like, bretzel is the singular form of the word. Maybe they want to sell more than one of these at this stall. So I just picked out those last couple of letters and made it the plural form. So there are actually pretzels for sale now, as opposed to one person gets the treat and that's it for the entire time. But I've mentioned that I kind of broke this down because I would like to have it done by the end of this year, or I'd like to have it done in order to be up and on my wall for Christmas next year. And I've just essentially said we're working on either one stall or one primary motif a month, and we'll see. It was basically an effort to see if I would stick with that schedule. And so far I have been doing really well, and I have actually been really enjoying doing it. It's, I think last month I worked on that stitching 5 different days. This time it was 3 different days. It's not a huge amount of stitching to work on, and I was probably a week into the year, or into the month before I started it, finished it over the course of a couple of days. And it's funny because when I finish it, of course, I want to keep going. I want to work on the next one, and I say, no, set it aside. Work on other projects. You'll be back again in a few weeks. But I have enjoyed how much that has been keeping me on task with this and keeping me excited about the project, but not making me feel overwhelmed, because I do stop myself from continuing to work on it if I have met my goal, because I know myself enough to know that if I kept working on it, I would work on it until I had overloaded on it, and then I would risk not picking it up again for a while. That's what I do with TV shows. Like, that's the problem. I will binge a TV show and I will watch one more episode than I should have, and then I just stop because I've overwatched. And then there are countless episodes or series of shows that I've just never gotten back to for that reason. So I am trying to show restraint on this project, and it's working really well. So those are my current whips, new starts and whips that I have been working on. I also wanted to show you a couple of projects that I have kitted up over the last couple of weeks. I haven't started them, but I did kit them up, and I will show those to you in just a second. So, as I mentioned, I had been thinking about other projects to work on, possible projects to work on for the Best Bunnies Sal, and I had people kind of vote, and the Hop On In was the top vote, but everything got some attention, and the one that was kind of the runner-up was Teresa Kogut's Bunny and Bee, which is just this sweet little pattern of a bunny and a tiny little bee sitting on his whiskers. It's a very small, simple project. Definitely something that will be fun to work on, and a really good project for like an event or a retreat, because you can just outline and then fill in without having to put a whole lot of thought into it. So I did kit this one up. This is my very tiny piece of fabric. This is a 32 count linen that I had hand dyed a number of years ago. I was trying to find this color, wasn't able to find it in a store. and just dyed it myself using RIT dye. I think this was just the plain turquoise color. It turned out perfectly, but I wound up not using all of the fabric that I had planned for that project, so I've had a couple of these little squares left over. And I think, and then I have also pulled the threads to go with it. These are XG Designs matte threads, so these are over dyed cottons, but they are matte rather than kind of shiny. You know that DMC in particular has a little bit of a shine, and so these are intended to be that flat matte look. And I had ordered these, I think last Christmas, like a year ago Christmas, and these are actually part of a Christmas set. There's another green, and then there is actually also a thread that looks very much like this, but I realized that they almost perfectly match what I needed for this project, so it'll be a really good chance to actually try those out. I'm looking forward to it. You will notice that I'm going to try a little bit of whisper thread right in the bunny's tail. I did look at the pattern and it calls for a different color white for the bunny's tail, and I've had this whisper thread just hanging around for a while. We'll see how it goes. But I have kitted all of those up to be ready to go in the very near future. So that is one of the pieces that will probably be an entry into the Best Bunny style in the near future. The other one that I kitted up, and this is my working copy at this point, which isn't the greatest, but I am going to be doing this little Easter egg bunny with his neckerchief, and it is a full coverage piece of the bunny with the kind of a blue sky behind him. So I'm going to be working on that. This is by UB Design, is the pattern designer. And I have pulled the called for floss, which is a mix of DMC and anchor. You'll notice, like I said, I actually do put my anchor on floss drops as well, just because I really enjoy, once you have it ready, you can actually just sit and stitch. You don't have to unwind, you don't have to work, you only have to pull the number of threads that you want at a time and go from there. But these are just such soft pastel kind of spring Easter colors that I think is going to be really fun to work with. And then for fabric, I'm going to use this 28 count cashel linen that I got in a floss and fabric advent calendar this past Christmas. So it's got this very gentle little blue dot on it, and I think that that will be really fun to go with those colors. So I have kitted up those two projects and will hopefully be starting those in the near future. Because the weather has been so mild, my brain has absolutely jumped right ahead to, it's spring. We should be working on spring projects all of the time. So we'll see. But like I said, April 1st snowstorm, it's coming, you guys. So those are the couple of projects that I have kitted up. And like I said, hopefully you will be seeing those in the near future. And then with that, the only other thing I have to show you for today is our recent acquisitions section of the program. So I do have a larger pile than I thought, but we'll go through this. So the first thing I want to show you is from the Forbidden Fiber Fabric of the Month Club. So this is I get the 32 count Belfast linen fat quarter that I receive, and this month's color is buckwheat, which is kind of a tan yellow mottled color. I don't know how much this is probably not appearing all that well in the sunlight today, but really great, just neutral fabric to use. I've mentioned in the past that I don't have a huge fabric stash, and so that is what I am focusing on, at least for a little while, in terms of buying some of those. So I do belong to, at this point, 2 Fabric of the Month clubs. Forbidden Fiber is one that I'm actually wrapping up on. The other one that I have received is from the Atomic Ranch Fabrics Club, which is from Stitch New England. So it's coming through the store, Stitch New England. And this month's fabric is Amber Waves. This one also is a 32 count linen. I thought I had signed up for the 36 count to be brave, but what I'm getting is the 32 count. So that probably means that I just finked out at the last minute is what I'm guessing. But this is just a really rich honey yellow color, amber yellow color, excuse me. So that again will just be a very nice neutral to have, and something that will be particularly good for spring projects and things like that. So those are the two fabrics that I have received recently. I also belong to Tom and Lily's Broderie and Color Box, which is something that's coming from France every month. And this is a kit of the month club. So you actually get everything that you need to complete the project. You don't get the finishing supplies, but you do get everything you need to, actually, no, I take that back. Yes, you do. You get the entire kit. And so this one is actually a black work design. Let me pull it out. Of course, it's at the bottom of the pile, the crinkly pile. So this is a kind of a mandala black work heart, which uses kind of very clearly Valentine's colors. And again, gorgeous Tom and Lily threads that come in that kit that you work with. And then it also has, I just dropped some wadding on the floor. Kind of just a very nice little Zweigart 32 count linen that you work on with that. It's been interesting. I didn't know a whole lot about this box before I signed up. I had been receiving their Floss of the Month Club for a while, which I really enjoyed. They're beautiful threads. I know that quite a number of people have been receiving those and trying them out recently. So I, as a person who is not sponsored, I can also say they're really beautiful threads. But I happened to see that they had a kit of the month club, and I thought, well, I do love kits because then you get everything. And so I decided to switch it over because I was kind of wrapping up my strict, straight up Floss of the Month clubs. And so I've gotten 4 of these boxes at this point, 2 of which have been cross-stitch projects, one of which, like this one, was black work, and one of which was ribbon embroidery, which is really fun. I don't know if it's sort of the intention of the kit to teach you these other skills or these other kind of related projects, crafts, but I've been enjoying it. It's kind of the thing that is, it's always a fun surprise. And like I've said before, like if you happen to not like the design, you still have all of the fabric, you still have all of the thread, you get other things that you can reuse for other projects. So I feel like it's worth the risk. To me, it's a fun thing that I don't mind doing. But it has been also interesting to receive projects that stretch me as a stitcher or could stretch me if I take on those projects. So that's something that I have been continuing to receive. I will keep working on that for a while. The next couple are 3 kits that I received from, I ordered these on Etsy, and they're from a Ukrainian shop. They happen to show up in my list of recommended things to take a look at. I think it's called Needlepoint Kits, I believe is the shop. I will include that information in the description in case I am wrong on that. But the one that I saw that really caught my attention that was recommended to me was this one here, which is this kind of bright spots of the umbrellas in what is clearly a gloomy, rainy day in a big city. And I just thought that that was so striking, really lovely. It's huge. I think it's like 7 inches by 23 inches in order to stitch this entire piece. And I will admit, even when I bought it, I was like, I don't actually know if I'm going to stitch this entire thing, only because that's a lot of brown, it's a lot of gray, but it's mostly tent stitch. It's mostly just kind of very sketchy, sketched in stitches, and then it really draws your eye and the attention in the way that the stitches are done to those colorful umbrellas. But I just thought it was beautiful, and this is one of those times where I've thought there is the separate hobby of just collecting charts, and this is one that I absolutely bought, if for no other reason than to collect and have this chart, because I think it is stunning. When I get to it, who knows, we'll see. But since, of course, I was buying it and they were having a 30% off sale, I couldn't just buy that one. So I bought 2 others, one of which is another cross-stitch chart. And this comes with everything, they're kits. Kind of a similar piece, but another city scene that has that kind of etching. And I love the reflection of the image in the water. And again, this is a lot of tent stitching. a lot of backstitching in order to just really evoke the idea of a town, as opposed to necessarily putting in all of the details. But I thought that that one was just really fun. This one might be the one that I actually start on first, but I thought that that was really neat. And the last one that I bought is not actually a cross-stitch kit. It is a bead embroidery kit. I really love hot air balloons. As you may have discovered, all kinds of weird transportation I love. Like, I love being on boats. I love being on trains. I really want to be able to ride in a hot air balloon someday. I'm going to go on a tangent just for a second. Back when the Lord of the Rings movies first came out, so like 2000-ish, Ian McKellen was the guest star on Saturday Night Live one time, and there was a sketch that is my favorite sketch. I don't think I've ever rewatched it because it might ruin it, but at the time it made me laugh a lot, and that is what I think of when I sometimes think of hot air balloons. So the point of the sketch was that he was a detective, and it was a Masterpiece Theater mystery show called Hot Air Balloon Mystery Theater. And so the premise of this very absurd show was that every week it was set in the basket of a hot air balloon, which you may know holds only a couple of people. It's maybe like 6 feet square. And so the premise is that he was this detective, and every episode there would be a mystery that happened in the hot air balloon basket that he had to solve. It included a chase scene and all kinds of things, and it was just like the most absurd thing ever, and it made me laugh so much. So one, I would really like to actually ride up in a hot air balloon. My favorite short story is by Jack Finney, and it's about somebody who makes his own hot air balloon in San Francisco and rides out over the Golden Gate Bridge, amongst other things. But anything about hot air balloons, I'm just like, I'm a sucker. I'm there. And so this is, you get the printed piece which has all of the background, and then what you do is you put the beads on to actually complete the outlines of all of the different hot air balloons. So, you know, no work at all. Yeah. So those were a couple of that I've received from that Ukrainian shop, and I just thought it was just a really fun opportunity to try those out. So those did come this past time. I am closing out on the Threads of History series, which is through the shop in Spring Green, Wisconsin, that I am blanking on. But they have this really great Threads of History series, and it's a sampler series, and I had joined it a number of months ago, and I finally said, these are lovely. They are absolutely beautiful. They have fantastic customer service. I love the way that they prepare all of the packages. I finally just said, but you're not a sampler stitcher. Maybe you don't need to be in a sampler of, they don't come out on a consistent schedule, but maybe you don't need to be a member of a sampler club. So this was my last one, but like I said, fantastic customer service, really great project, or really great series if this is the kind of thing that you enjoy. This one, I really love that house. I might actually stitch just that teeny little bottom bit with the house and the plants. There's also a hot pink cat. How can you not love a hot pink cat? But the rest of it probably wouldn't get done. But very highly recommend for people who enjoy that type of stitching, I would say. I received, we're getting to the end of the pile. I received two Threads of the Month clubs. These are the two that I continue to belong to. So one is the Week's Dye Work series, which is from Stitch New England store in Massachusetts. And these come in alphabetical order so that you just sign up for the club, and by the end you will have a complete set of Week's Dye Works floss. So I'm continuing to receive those. I also belong to Vicki Clayton's hand-dyed fiber overdyed silks of the month club, and these come in on these little spools which I put on floss drops. The cats love the spools. They are littered around my house, but they provide great entertainment. But these are beautiful silks. They come very faithfully. They have hilarious names. I love them. Every time the thing that I most want to see is the names of these. So there is Razzle Pie this time. We've got Frost Melt. Rest I've never had. things like that. Knock knock, knee for all, really just really fun like puns and names. And they are, I find, to be very economical if you're purchasing silks. So if you haven't, check out those Vicky Clayton or Victoria Clayton Dyer hand-dyed fibers. So I do receive those. And then the last thing that I have received this time is this Versailles Ancien, which is old dishes. I mentioned that I subscribe to this magazine. It's French Création Poitou, which is for Cross-Stitch Creations, a French magazine. And my subscription this year is sort of the higher tier deluxe subscription. And so in addition to the monthly, or the, excuse me, semi-monthly, every other month, issues that come that are on any topic that the designers have put in, you also get special issues throughout the year on a particular topic. So the first one that I received this year was a calendar, a wall calendar, and it had January through December designs that you could work on. This one is all about old dishes, and it tends to be these very kind of monochromatic colors. So everything is like tones of red, tones of black, really fun designs. And it's all by the same designer, in this case, Monique Bonan. And there's one that I really want to show you, which is what I particularly like out of this one. And so it's a kind of a sampler alphabet with just a few little dish pieces there. So this is a magazine that I have been really enjoying, and I'm enjoying seeing what comes as the sort of special issues each time as well. So something to be adding to the to-do list. With that, that is pretty much what I have for you guys today. So, and yet somehow we're still at 55 minutes. I don't know. At some point, do you think I will put out a shorter video? Who knows? But anyway, thank you all again for joining me. I hope you had a good time just kind of checking out what some of the routine stitching that has been happening around my house the last couple of weeks. I will say that I will be filming again most likely on March 4, which is 2 weeks from now. I had mentioned in my first video, I kind of just somewhere between 2 and 3 weeks is when I film, but I tend to not have a set schedule. But I will be filming probably on March 4 next time, because on March 11, I'm actually going to be co-hosting a Connecticut Stitchers Day or Stitching Day. So if you are a Connecticut Stitcher near Connecticut, we hope that you will join us. CT Stitcher, Rachel, who is CT Stitcher on Instagram, who is the mastermind behind this, by the way. I just am like, yeah, that sounds great. Sure, I'd be happy to go along with you on that one. So we are going to be putting together a stitching day just to basically see who shows up and what we can chat about and what new friends that we can meet. So this will be on March 11, and we're going to be meeting at the Panera Bread in Hamden, Connecticut. I believe there is only one Panera, but just in case, it's the one on Dixwell Avenue by the Joanne, near the Joanne. So we'll start at 10 a.m. and we'll just kind of stitch until people don't feel like stitching anymore. So March 11, 10 a.m. at the Panera in Hamden, Connecticut, and we are hopeful that you will join us. So please, if you're in the area, put that on your calendars. And then, like I said, when I started this video, I was literally at 999 subscribers. Should I check right now to see? Let's see. What probably will happen now that I'm doing this is like my subscriber count will have gone down. I've just hit 1,000 subscribers. So we are guaranteed that there will be a giveaway in the next video, and that is to show my thankfulness and gratitude to all of you for taking the time to do this. So looking forward to finalizing all of that and seeing what we can do as we move forward with these videos in the future. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining me. I hope that you are having a enjoyable weekend. Hopefully most of you are getting to enjoy the long weekend, which I feel like I am always very productive on long weekends because I somehow just feel like I actually do have extra time to get things done, but then there's enough time to be really lazy and not do anything as well. Love long weekends. But okay, with that, I'm going to wrap up. Thank you to everybody. Thank you to my 1,000 subscribers, which is continues to be flabbergasting. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend and happy stitching. Thank you guys. Bye.